Newsfirst Newsline with Faraz Shaukat Ali.
Hello there, very good evening and welcome to Newsline Live. And we are of course broadcasting on TV1, which is a proud member of the Capital Maharaja Group, CMG. Now then, 2 years to the day that Sri Lanka was engulfed in a fiery, almost new darkness, Sri Lanka, the Republic, is no closer to finding out the truth as to what actually happened and who was behind that attack 2 years ago on Easter Sunday. And that's the irony. The pursuit of the truth in Sri Lanka is a favorite pastime of many people, and certainly our whole ethos here at News First. However, the truth has always been ultra difficult to come about. And our politicians, both elected and appointed, have sort of shown a certain penchant for avoiding the truth. Let's see if somebody that we've invited this evening can explain why it is that in Sri Lanka the truth remains so elusive. We've got here today the Executive Director of the Centre for Policy Alternatives, Dr. Paikiasothy Saravanamuttu. Good evening.
Good evening.
Doctor. Why is the truth so blessed difficult for us to get hold of? 2 years, these people have, some of them have died, some of them are alive to face the consequences of that attack. Some of them are children, even now, who've lost their parents, grandparents, and so on. Why is the truth so difficult? And this is straightforward terrorist attack.
I think the truth is difficult to uncover in this country because those who are tasked with the job of finding the truth are scared of it, because that may well implicate them. You know, see, for example, we are told in Parliament today, or was it yesterday, that the person that the Minister of Interior and Public Security identifies as the mastermind behind the whole Easter Sunday attack never gave evidence before this commission. How on earth did that happen? How on earth did that happen? And no one's saying anything. Furthermore, there are the allegations that Zaharan was in the government's payroll. Why hasn't that been probed? Why? Because if you dig deeper and deeper and deeper, you will find that there are alliances, connections, deals, all of that that have been made, which has very little or no concern for the welfare of the public of Sri Lanka. And that is why the truth is elusive, because those who are tasked with the job of searching for the truth, if they really do it in earnest, they come up against those who do not want the truth uncovered, because it will show the degree of complicity they've had with all of these atrocities.
So the truth is inconvenient?
Absolutely inconvenient.
And today we saw, well, today and a few days ago also, we saw a lot of kalabala in the Parliament. And what struck me is that we have Mr. Harin Fernando saying, or leading the saying that there is more to it than meets the eye. My point is this, saying it in Parliament is all well and good. You have the comfort of parliamentary privilege and all of that. Why don't these people who pretend to have information that appears not to be within the files of the CID, why don't they turn up to the CID and make a statement and give them all the information they have? And then if the CID doesn't do anything about it, they can go into Parliament and yell their heads off.
I think the answer to that, of course, one needs to ask Harin Fernando why he hasn't done it. But my guess is that they do not have the kind of implicit trust and faith and confidence in the agencies of law enforcement that one ought to have in a functioning democracy. If that was the case, we wouldn't have these special commissions and all of this.
Thank you very much for your questions, by the way, by SMS and or WhatsApp, if you like. 0772 300 305, card on your screen right now. Cardinal Malcolm Ranjit is saying that, he says, I'm quoting here, "We wish to emphasize that steps must be taken swiftly to implement the recommendations of the Presidential Commission to wipe out terrorism and to ban schools and institutions that propagate Wahhabism in the country." And so on. Do you think that this will ever see the light of day?
Well, I doubt it very much, because not much has been done in that respect. But at the same time, I mean, the Cardinal, in terms of what he has come out with, he also has a fair amount of clarification, for want of a better word, to do as to what he actually believes happened. He gave today as a deadline, and people were supposed to take to the streets. He did talk about bringing in internationals to look at what happened with regard to it. He also spoke about not Islamic terrorism, but he spoke about political extremism, and then backtracked somewhat, etc. But in terms of finding out the truth, I think the question that the Cardinal needs to be asked is what kind of pressure, or indeed persuasion, as the case might be, can he and his community of the faithful, as it were, bring to bear on this government to go after the truth without any hint of political bias and prejudice.
What pressure can anyone bring upon this government who have got a virtual two-thirds majority?
Well, I mean, every available bit of evidence suggests that the two-thirds majority doesn't hold, or that it is somewhat shaky, given what the government has done, or indeed has not done. At the end of the day, the politicians, presumably, are sensitive to what the people want and think. And so, as the Cardinal said, he will bring people out into the streets. Let him bring them out into the streets, and let's see what happens.
Thank you for your questions, some statements even. The identified guy as the leader was not questioned by the Commission because the AG did not want him questioned. This is in the report very clearly. Really?
I'm not aware of that at all, but if the AG did not want him to be questioned, we need to question the AG and find out why.
But we're just going around in circles, really.
No, but the point about it is, what is the point then in having commissions?
Yeah. Well, actually,
Look,
but what is the point? Because nothing really much ever happens.
This is the thing, is that either you're going to have a commission which is given a very clear mandate, and the people who are put in charge of executing that mandate have the honesty and integrity and the independence to go ahead and fulfill that mandate, or no one functions as far as that commission is concerned. I mean, if the Attorney General has turned around and said that there is no need to question this person, then surely the question is, why does the Attorney General say so? Where is the transparency with regard to the most egregious single attack on the national security of the people of Sri Lanka?
Now, one of the sort of results has been of this investigation thus far has been the banning of various
extremist Wahhabist
organizations and so on, including some that have obviously been funded from overseas, by overseas elements and so on. Now, NGOs are also, some of them are funded from overseas. Is there a danger that the line between that extremism and the government's desire, of this government's desire to sort of chop those off and control the foreign influence, is there a danger that that line will be blurred, and then you'll see that NGOs also being drawn into the net?
This government, this regime, has not been very sympathetic or taken a particular attitude towards NGOs that has been in any way auspicious or welcoming or accommodative. They have believed that the NGOs are a haven of dissent, and that they are being funded by foreign governments for an inimical agenda to the national interests of Sri Lanka. But yes, bringing this in as well, because after all, the Saudis and the Libyans and whoever else are supposed to be funding Islamic extremism are from the global south and not from the global north. So yes, so then we will have the two brought together and the lines blurred. Yeah.
Now, when we look at all this sort of international aspect of this, and what perhaps between the lines the Cardinal is alluding to, how does that sit with Sri Lanka's the reputation of Sri Lanka, or the reputation of this government of Sri Lanka internationally? You know, the reputation is not very good.
Well, I mean, you know, when you say reputation, you presume that it is something about that there has been good things that they have done, that they are productive, they are constructive and all of that. But they haven't been. They have brought the image of this country right down to rock bottom. Do we have a foreign policy? I don't think we do. They don't have any idea as to what foreign policy actually means. The left hand either doesn't know what the right hand is doing, or they just are making it up as they go along, according to some notion of a majoritarian ideology that they want to push through. This is not what foreign policy is, and this is in fact an embarrassment to the previous generations of diplomats, etc., who had a high profile and a high stock as far as international opinion was concerned.
And what about Lakshman Kadirgama? What do you think? Do you think he's fighting his way out of the grave to protest at what's going on?
I'm sure he must be. I'm sure he must be. I mean, you know, today, for example, in the court, we've had the counsel for the secretary to the president, Mr. P. Paikiasothy, Mr. Ramesh De Silva, getting up and saying that there is nothing illegal about having foreigners as Supreme Court justices or the Chief Justice of the country. There is nothing illegal in Port City being controlled by China. So then the question that I ask, fine, why was there such a kerfuffle, a harangue, a hullabaloo over the idea of an accountability mechanism in Geneva? That came up in Geneva, that last resolution, the penultimate one, where we said that we would have the proactive involvement of foreigners as judges, etc. What is the problem then? What are these double standards? What happened to sovereignty? Where are all these people who have screamed and shrieked about sovereignty? Hoarse. Where are they now?
I'm also wondering what happened to all those people who screamed and shrieked and protested outside the Central Bank of Sri Lanka, saying that the Yapalanista government should never have appointed, although legal, should never have appointed a foreigner to be the governor of the Central Bank. Double standards indeed.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we had John Exeter, who was governor of the Central Bank.
Of course, he was the founding father.
Yeah.
On that note, we'll go for a short break, shall we? And we'll come back and join Dr. Paikiasothy Saravanamuttu, who is our guest tonight on Newsline Live.
Newsfirst, Newsline with Faraz Shaukat Ali.
And welcome back to Newsline Live. I'm in conversation with Dr. Paikiasothy Saravanamuttu from the Center for Policy Alternatives. Doctor, unless we as a society and we as citizens recommit ourselves to saving what is precious and valuable and worthwhile in this country, we have no right to talk in terms of patriotism, national interest or public interest. We need to act. Still stand by those words?
Absolutely. Always will stand by.
Is that what is needed now?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because at various times you have some people screaming and shouting, the others are silent. Then you have them screaming and shouting and the others being silent. No, we have to come together and recognize that if this country is to move forward, we need certain fundamental things to be clearly established and defended, strengthened and protected. And that's what's not happening. I mean, look, given all of that has happened, we're sitting here in the capital city of Colombo. I wonder how many people outside of Colombo have any idea as to what this is all about. Have any idea?
And that's the point, isn't it?
Yeah, so this is the thing. It's the getting this out in the singular language, getting it out to the people who are out there, who voted for this government, who sort of deifying almost these politicians. Getting it out there and saying to them, look, it's your power, not theirs. They are meant to serve you, not you serve them.
And how can we take this message to the masses?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question, and it's always been a sort of big debate. Do you need a charismatic leader? Do you need a set of leaders who will be able to communicate with people and take it out? And in that sense, that sort of notion of individual leadership becomes important. You have to have the spokespersons to spearhead this campaign, or else it won't happen. We need the Mandelas, we need the people like that in order to go out and sort of say, look, we need to clean up. And if we don't clean up, this is what is going to happen. We can't just sit and wait and expect things to fall into our lap. And that's the other point. Our two-party system has meant that some parties, political parties, sort of feel, look, in 5 years it's going to be our turn. That's not going to be the case. As we have seen, we had 17 years of UNP rule, then how many years, I don't know, when Chandrika came in 94, and then Mahinda Rajapaksa and all of that. We've had one party in power for so long that the corruption breeds complacency, breeds authoritarianism, all of that. So we have to, I don't know, I suppose it's a sort of reintroduce and revive the romanticism, if you like, of democratic politics, of making people feel that power is theirs and they can exercise it for their benefit.
In terms of real action, what can the people do? Should they be all texting or WhatsApping their members of parliament?
Oh yes, you should. The members of parliament are supposed to be there to do work in their interests, in the interests of their constituents. And so yes, they should put out SMSs, text, whatever, and get these members of parliament to respond to it. And if they fail to do so, I think you have to come out on the streets non-violently and express your dissatisfaction with what is going on. I mean, when did, how often do our political leaders at the highest level have press conferences? How often do they have press conferences?
Well, we've got the cabinet debriefing.
Yeah, that's a cabinet debriefing, but we do know that the structure of power in this country is the president at the apex. There are so many questions that only he can answer.
At the Centre for Policy Alternatives, have you raised a sort of red flag on the manner in which the Colombo Port City bill is going?
Oh, well, we were the first people to file.
And fundamentally, what is it that if you were to choose one item, what is it that you're most uncomfortable with?
I put it this way. The bill is effectively the ground plan for a new constitution of a new state in Sri Lanka. It's a state within a state. The institutions of accountability, of deliberation, from Parliament to the Auditor General, the laws with regard to all of this, the Criminal Procedure Code, all of these things don't apply. People are going to be paid in foreign currency. All of this is going to happen.
This is not a bad thing, though, is it?
No, that's not a bad thing. I mean, and at the end of the day, I think the idea of a port city is a very good one, because we need that kind of thing to fast-track our development, to get ahead. But the way in which it is done...
There are certain... I know this is before the courts and so on, but there are some parts that appear to be not consistent with the Constitution, and therefore one is waiting with bated breath.
So this is the thing. One hopes that those parts that the Supreme Court so find, they will say that it has to have a referendum as well as a two-thirds majority.
But do you think that now, you know, in simplistic terms, we had the Chinese who came and said, look, we'll develop all that, we'll reclaim the land and so on, and you give us the bulk and you can have a little bit, and we'll pay for all of that. Do you think now the Indians might knock on the door and say, listen, chaps, you know, we'd like a little part there. Can we do a little port city off Trinco or wherever?
So this is the thing. I mean, you know, we have come to the situation in which we have sort of divided up the country. North of Vavuniya, the Indians get first refusal.
Right.
South of Vavuniya, the Chinese. So we have sort of, you know, decided that these are the two spheres of influence, and that they're going to have to battle it out. What we need to go to, and I don't think we can stop the competition between the two or anything like that, but what we need to arrive at is rules-based competition within the Indian Ocean area. We do need technology and we do need financial resources from both India and China, and we need to ensure that it can come to us in a way that it's not zero-sum. You know, both sides will benefit, or the three sides at the end of the day will benefit from it.
Here's a nice question. I don't know if you can answer it. USA, the Floyd case, was solved within a month or two. Why are we taking more than 2 years for the Good Friday killings? Or the Easter Sunday killings?
I mean, you know, according to our Minister of Justice, a commercial court case takes 3.5 years. A normal criminal case takes 9 years or something like that. We have people who are in jail on the basis of suspicion, who have spent the best years of their life, amounting to 15 to 20 years. This is how decrepit our system is.
Maybe that is why they want to have a whole new set of rules and regulations for the port city.
New set of rules and regulations, fine. But we have a constitution in this country. We have a legal framework, a legal and constitutional framework. We are signatories to international agreements and covenants and charters and all of those kinds of things. And we must do it within those frameworks. It's not just a question of sort of saying that, look, the Chinese have got the land from the sea. The president of Sri Lanka can decide on a commission to be set up, and they can go off and do their own thing. You know, so people will come to Colombo to look at a new country, another country. You know, who are the Sri Lankans, for example, educated in the Sri Lankan educational system, who will get jobs in the port city?
Because the commission might all comprise of very educated Chinese.
Entirely possible. Entirely possible.
So what? So we have to just take it?
Well, if the Supreme Court doesn't act with regard to the clauses of the bill and say it has to go to two-thirds majority and a referendum, and if it doesn't get those things, then it's out. But if it passes like that, then these are the laws that we've allowed our legislators to make for us.
And so whether we like it or not?
Well, until a new set of legislators come along and go through the due process.
So we'll have to put up and shut
and
up,
changing these laws.
basically.
Yeah, until you find those who can change it. But we need to, at this point, come out and point out the inconsistencies, the contradictions, the hypocrisy of what is being proposed. And if we are to say we are one country, one law, that we are a fully functioning democracy, then we have to provide the evidence in practice that we are, rather than contradict it and violate it at every twist and turn.
Without a second thought?
Absolutely not. Yeah. Without a second thought. Everyone is sort of saying, yes, the port city is what we need.
Yeah.
We all agree with that.
Yes. There's no harm in getting it right, though.
Exactly. Ends don't justify means. You know, that's what's important.
Because the greater the transparency, the better the appeal for the international investor.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So it appears to me, Dr. Saravanamuttu, that your Centre for Policy Alternatives will have its sort of work cut out, really.
Indeed. Absolutely. Absolutely.
No concerns about the government sort of saying to you, well, we don't want you?
Well, the government has at various times threatened us, and we've had death threats and all sorts of things, but we soldier on in the belief that we are making a contribution and that there are enough people in this society who agree with us and think that what we are doing is worthwhile.
Well, you know, long may you carry on.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Saravanamuttu, for being on our program, and we leave you this evening to join the primetime news from News First. Take care, and wish you a very good evening, and as always, God bless you.
Thank you.